have a serious topic today. Emotional homes. Have you ever heard that term before? I heard it years ago from Tony Robbins. I'm talking years ago, and I had no idea what he was talking about. He was talking about we all live in these emotional homes, and regardless of what's going on, people will go back to their emotional home. And I was like, what is an emotional home? Are you with me on this? But here's the thing, the day I had that aha moment of what an emotional home was, it shifted my life forever. Here's what I want to share. Emotional home is, you ever have that friend who's always worried? They worry about everything, or the other friend who everything goes wrong and they'll give you a list of all the things that go wrong. Well, I used to live in the emotional home of lack and also fear. Lack of money and fear of my animals, or fear of, not caring enough for them. And what I realized, when we have awareness of what home we're living in, we can start to make changes, because we can't make changes if we are unaware. So my question is, what emotional home are you living in? It's the home where maybe it's you're afraid of the future, or not having enough money like I've always been, or maybe your animal or your family member getting hurt. It's that recurring thought that pops up all day long. That's our emotional home. When we have the awareness and we make the connection and we work on that, when we can realize when we're living in that emotional home, whatever it is, there's no judgment. This is definitely not a time to judge. What I realized, and it was a huge lesson, so the universe is always giving us lessons until we learn them. And even when we learn them, it's still gonna test us. This year I had the scare of my puppy got into something and we didn't realize it. Long story short, he was rushed for emergency surgery of his small intestine. The entire time we went to the vet, two times prior to him having the emergency surgery. And normally I would be so upset, not knowing what was going on with my dog. Not that I wasn't upset. What I realized, my emotional home was to be upset. And in realizing where our emotions are, if you're familiar with the law of attraction, what we put out is what we get. So I knew emotionally I didn't want to put out that I was scared or upset for my dog. Emotionally, I wanted him to be healthy and happy. So that whole day, I had this emotional, energetic check. I was always checking in on my emotions. And I don't know if you ever have taken an animal to the emergency hospital. It is quite an experience. We get to the emergency hospital and they're like, he clearly needs surgery. It's, they tell us everything that could possibly go wrong. They're going to cut his intestine, all these different things. And I remember my husband saying, well, then the doctor tells us how much it was. It was just under 10 grand. And my old self would have been like, oh my God. And I'm not going to lie, I started to be like, oh, there goes our trip and there goes this. And my husband was my human rubber band, right? That person that snaps you out of the moment. And so I didn't go into my normal emotional home of lack. I went into, okay, here's 2 credit cards. All right, let's have the procedure. The next day, the doctor told us he was still out of the woods, because that's how I looked at it, right? He was still here with us. The entire process, I always looked at the good things. He had surgery. That was amazing. He was still here. Amazing. Then the next day he was getting a little better, and 3 days later we were able to pick him up. Why do I share this? Because when we have the awareness of our emotional home and we stay on top of it, we stay elevated in our energy, the universe delivers us a gift. And my gift that day was the tech that was taking care of him. When she walked in the room, I recognized her. She was my brother's best friend's daughter. That was my gift. And I share this with you because that day was it was an opportunity for me to learn. So how can we learn? Hi, thank you everyone who's joining me. How can we learn what emotional home we're living so we can change it, so we can have this elevated state of energy? And I share another quick story. I recently had my first pre-book event, which is pretty cool because the book has been in the makings for well over 3 years. And that day I was getting all these texts on people who weren't attending. And one of them was my husband who couldn't make it. And my old self would have been really mad, right? And hurt. And who am I to even be writing this book? Nobody's even attending this event. But do you see that, how our mind can start to play the trick? But I never let it get to that point. I had the awareness oh, you're going to that old home, your old emotional home. That's not where you want to be. We want to keep our energy elevated. And in doing that, I met a super sweet man, very nice man, who not only blessed my book, but blessed my journey. And after speaking to this man, I was telling my cousin about the experience, and she said, that was Grandpa. My grandfather had came through this man. Now, why am I sharing this? Well, a couple things. Emotional homes are real. So I hope it doesn't take you as long as it took me to learn about them, which was quite some time. Take some time over the next couple of days and think about where do you hang out? Is it lack? Is it insecurity? Is it jealousy? Whatever it is. Not a time to judge, just a time to notice. These are your old patterns. We're heading into 2025, a new year. So let's take this as an opportunity to redirect our life, to elevate our life. And in doing so, the other thing I want to share is in doing the work of working on you, the universe does deliver you gifts, like the beautiful young girl who was taking care of my dog when he was in the hospital. This nice, sweet man delivering me such a beautiful message on a day that my emotions were trying to pull me into a negative spot, but I was on top of it. I'm not saying this work is easy. Trust me, it is not easy, but it's necessary. And the more awareness you have, the easier it is to catch yourself before you spiral. My old self would have been in a spiraling mess with my dog having this emergency surgery and it costing so much. All these texts telling me all the people who weren't attending the event, on top of my husband not attending the event, that would have put me in a spiral years ago. And I share this because I want you to live your best life. And in doing that, it does require us to do some work. So, are you up for a little work today? Take some time. We're heading into a new year and just notice, where do you hang out? It's that energy that kind of pulls you down. That's your emotional home. Is, again, no judging. This is just an opportunity to have a new experience and to call in new energy, new opportunities, and new gifts and blessings in 2025. So that is how I leave you. The habit hack today is checking in on your emotional homes and then just having the awareness, and one thought at a time. It's like climbing. You're climbing up the emotional ladder until you get to a place that feels good. All right, if you are benefiting from these, please share them. At the end of the day, it's all about creating simple habit hacks, one habit at a time. I am Jen from Oxygen, Minds and Body Coach, and I'm here to help you make the changes with ease and simplicity. The only thing that is required is consistency. I'll catch you tomorrow.